Hey guys, so I'm just gonna go over the assignment for today if you need help with it, step by step. So here's the first problem. So the first thing you're thinking about, which we kind of gave you a hint in here, is we've done two different types of problems. We've done work problems and distance problems. So I'm just going to write that up here. Okay, so for the distance problems, you're using the formula distance equals rate times time. And if you need to get rate by itself, you would do distance divided by time. And if you needed to get t by itself, you'd do distance divided by rate. So I'm looking at the level 1 version of this because I already did some of it for you. So I'm just basically using the information they gave me to fill in the chart. So I already did the first one for you. So 8 miles per hour in still water means that when you're going against the current, because remember when you're going up the river, you're going slower. And when you're going down the river, you're going faster. So that means that this, the rate for going up the river is going to be 8, which they gave me right here, minus x, because what we don't know is the speed of the current, okay? So here, the speed of the current is our unknown. So that's why I made this is your speed of the current, okay? So that means the distance, unless they tell you otherwise, is probably going to be the same because you're just going to somewhere and back. And they even gave us here 60 miles up and 60 miles down. Okay, the only difference between this rate and that one is that now we're going faster. So the speed of the current is working with me. Okay, so this x is representing the speed of the current. That's why I made them both the same color. And then for time, our formula for time is distance divided by rate. So I already gave you that one, and then this one would be 60 over 8 minus x. Okay, so it's always the same. All the ones we've done have the same thing where all the information you end up needing is in this column, okay? But you needed to fill in the other two columns to get that information, so that's why we do that. All right, so here's how we're going to set up the equation. The time to go upstream plus the time to go downstream equals the total time. So I already gave you the time upstream, which means the part you are filling in for yourself here is 8 plus x. Okay, so I'm also going to put this over 1. Our least common denominator is going to be 8 plus x times 8 minus x. Okay, so I'm going to take every single term here and multiply it by my LCD. All right, so now these two are going to cancel. So I'd have, 60 times 8 plus x is what's left in my first fraction. And then here, these two cancel. So this would be 60 times 8 minus x equals 16.5 times 64. minus x squared. Okay, in that step, I just distributed 8 times 8 is 64, and then x times x is negative x squared. The middle terms cancel out. Okay, so at this step, if you don't need any more help, you can fast forward to problem number 2. Otherwise, I'll go through this part step by step. So 6 times 8 is 48, which means 60 times 8 is 480. So this is 1056 minus 16.5 x squared. Yeah. All right, so it's kind of annoying that we have a 16.5 in here, but we'll deal with it. Okay, so now these are going to cancel out. So then I have 480 plus 480, which I think is 960, yeah. So this is 960. Now, because my I don't have any linear terms in this. I don't have any x's. So you do have 2 choices right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm still going to make the x squared positive because it's probably a good idea to keep it in standard form if you, just in case. So I'm moving the 16.5x squared here, and then I'm going to subtract 1056 from both sides. Okay. Oops. .5x squared minus 96 equals 0. I see what I was trying to show you guys. Okay, so I put it in standard form now. Now, because there's no x term, I know this might be kind of counterproductive, but this is how I did it. I'm going to add 96 to both sides. So I have 16.5 x squared equals 96. And now I can just get x by itself by doing inverse operations. So 16.5 divided by 16.5. Sorry, that's a 6, and it doesn't look like a 6. Okay, so 96 divided by 16.5. So I have x squared equals 5.8181, which means to get x by itself, I have to do the square root of both of these. So this calculator doesn't do it. Just type in your calculator the square root of 5.8181, and that's going to give you an approximate answer for that one. All right. Okay, next one. So the first one we did was a problem about distance. This is a work problem. So for work problems, we always set up the equation this way. So we find their individual rate. So usually there's 2 individuals or sometimes 3. And then we need to know their time together, and we multiply those together. Okay, so remember from the very first video I talked about like how the rate is a fraction, and it seems kind of confusing, but basically for Cora, her rate is one envelope, right? One pile of letters into envelopes in 3 hours. So her rate is one pile in 3 hours. Okay, envelopes takes 4 hours to do the same job. So his rate is one pile in 4 hours. Okay, so for this problem, what we don't know is how many hours it would take them to do the job together. So we have 2 rates, and then we know the total is going to be 1. So if to do the job, if they both work together, that's our unknown. Okay, so here's the way I set up the equation. It's going to be Cora times the time together plus NV times the time together equals 1. So because the time together is what we don't know, it's going to be 1 over 3 times x okay, so this is Cora, the x is the time together, this is NV, and the x is the time together. So remember, if we're multiplying like 1 over 3 times x over 1, I can put a 1 underneath the x, so the shorter way to write that would be x over 3, and this one would be x over 4 equals 1. So my least common denominator is going to be 3 times 4, which is 12. So I guess I'll do it the same way we did for the other ones. I'm multiplying every single thing by 12 here. And you could reduce at this step. I'm going to write out the next step before I do the division. So 12x divided by 3 plus 12x divided by 4 equals 12. All right, so now 12 divided by 3 is going to give me 4 over 1, but I don't need to write the 1. And then 12 divided by 4 is going to give me 3. Okay, and then this one is a lot simpler to solve, so we just have 7x equals 12. Let's see, 12 divided by 7. So the time to do the job together would be about 1.71. So takes approximately 1.71 hours to do the job together. Okay, and the way you can kind of think about like, is that a logical answer or not, is just go back to what they said before. I mean, doing the job together should be faster than either person doing it by themselves. So if Cora was doing the job in 3 hours and Envy was doing the job in 4 hours, then it should be significantly faster when they work together. If you got like 6 hours, that wouldn't make any sense and you would know that you did something wrong. All right. Okay, so Jason can clean a tank at an aquarium in about 6 hours. So his rate is 1 tank in 6 hours. When Jason and Lacey work together, they can clean the tank in about 3.5 hours. So this time we know Jason and we know the time together. About how long would it take Lacey to clean the tank if she works by herself? So that is our unknown. Is Lacey. So we want to know Lacey can clean 1 tank in how many hours? Okay, so I think the most common mistake people make here is just forgetting to put the unknown under the 1. If it still doesn't make sense to you why we do that, just try to remember that in these problems, this is another work problem. You're always going to have 1 over something. That's the pattern that we've seen every time. So here's how we're going to set up our equation. Jason times the time together, which is 3.5, plus Lacey times the time together equals 1. Okay, so here's Jason, here's time together, here's Lacey, here's time together, and it always equals 1. All right, so now let's do this. Okay, so in my next step, I'm gonna just, I just did 1 times 1, or 1 times 3.5, and then 6 times 1. This would be 3.5 over x equals 1. Okay. So our least common denominator for this one is going to be 6x. So I have 6x, 6x, 6x. All right, so here my 6's are going to cancel. So I have 3.5x. Here my x's are going to cancel. So that's going to be 6 times 3. All right, let's take away 3.5x from both sides. So I have 21 equals 2.5x. Okay, 8.4. Okay, so let's take a look. What was our problem? Jason can clean a large tank in an aquarium in about 6 hours, and when they work together, they can clean the tank in about 3.5 hours. So Lacey can clean the tank by herself in about 8.4